What's going on, Summoners? Welcome back to another Pro Guides video. I'm Kangas, and today we're taking a look at how to find your main role. A lot of players, especially you newer ones, will struggle to find a role that suits you best, and while we can't guarantee that we'll find you the perfect match, we'll definitely help you pick something that flows with your general playstyle. So hit that sub button, and let's get into it.
Starting us off, let's take a look at the top lane. Now, top lane is actually quite an important role as it allows for a ton of different playstyles, but most importantly, it's one of the most isolated roles in the entire game. While all the others do interact with each other quite often, top lane is best known as an island. But don't worry, you can often take teleport to roam in order to help your team when it does count. Now, as a top laner, you're constantly looking to outplay your opponents by either staying safe and scaling, or dominating them out of pure skill. It's constantly a battle of wits, and depending on your character, one advantage is all it takes to carry your team to victory. So with this in mind, it means that you'll be in a 1v1 scenario for most of the game. If you're a fan of a far more solo-oriented playstyle, top lane can offer a very enjoyable experience. Plus, its extremely high versatility allows you to fill lots of roles for your team. Not to mention, there's just tons of cool champions that you can play, but we'll talk more about that later. Overall, if you like intense 1v1s supporting your team, or just single-handedly taking the enemy's base, you're sure to enjoy the top lane experience in one way or another. So now that we covered what top lane is as a role, let's break down some of the classes that you can choose from to best fit your playstyle. If you're somebody who always played a tank, well, it's no different in League. You'll be playing champions that are first fairly weak, but as the game goes on, they can become unkillable beasts. Plus, you'll be able to frontline for your team and make sure that the enemy focuses on you instead. Now, maybe you're somebody who really wants to embrace the concept of playing solo. Well then, you'll be more interested in a fighter. Most of these characters offer complex kits that allow you to duel your opponent with style. Alongside this, many of these champions can split push really well, which means you'll very rarely have to interact with your team unless you so choose. But what if you don't feel like playing a tank and you also think that fighters die too fast? Well, you'll be happy to find that there is an in-between with a juggernaut. These champions offer extreme amounts of damage at close range while also being fairly beefy. That being said, they often lack the tools to close the distance with an enemy. And finally, there are a few oddballs in the top lane that don't really fall into any of these categories. Some of them offer high amounts of range in exchange for far less health. Others offer quick assassination techniques while not really dealing much DPS. Regardless, it's important to find a class that best suits you, so don't be afraid to try them all out. Now, before we continue the list, don't forget to check us out at ProGuides.com, where you can check out our incredible catalog of coaches, courses, and overall just a walkthrough to your dream rank. While you're there, take a look at our VOD review services, where you can get a challenger level player to take a look at your VODs and critique everything you're doing right and wrong. Trust me, there's no better way to learn, so check it out if you're interested. But now, similar to top lane, the jungle is a fairly solo-oriented role, or at least for a part of the game. It's best known for its ability to impact every lane in the game and tends to control what objectives are taken. Alongside this, junglers farm camps rather than minions and gank lanes, meaning that they don't have an actual lane opponent. While most junglers may occasionally clash at scuttle or during invades, if necessary, it's possible to completely avoid the enemy jungler to avoid being killed yourself. That being said, as a jungler, it's up to you to either carry the game or put your team in a position that they can carry. This means you'll often have to prioritize having extremely high farm and experience, or you'll be looking to constantly gank your allies and get them ahead. If you're somebody who wants to have a lot of control over the game, you're not going to find a better role at that than jungle, especially once you reach the higher levels of play. Just keep in mind the jungle has to constantly watch the map and make plays as fast as possible. The difference between a good and a great jungler is how long it takes for them to make that game-changing decision. Also, keep in mind that junglers get flamed more than pretty much everybody else, so just be aware of that. Now, while jungle does have a few different class types, they are also different because some gank repeatedly while others simply farm for a majority of the game. Taking a look at familiar classes, we do of course have tanks that can play in the jungle. If you enjoy simple champions that get extremely beefy as the game goes on, you'll most likely love tanks. Especially when you find out that their clears don't really take as much effort as some of the other junglers. These kinds of junglers tend to gank often as their main goal is to get their team ahead with kills and objectives. But in the jungle, there's also fighters and bruisers who tend to have a balanced playstyle of farming and ganking. These type of champions will often look to duel the enemy junglers at crabs or even invade them in order to set them behind. Their biggest issue is that they tend to fall off as the game goes on though. Overall, if you're looking for a versatile and balanced style of jungler, you'll enjoy fighters and bruisers. These types of champions will often be seen clearing a few camps and then going for immediate ganks. One of the lesser common jungle class types are actually assassins. These champions are often made to kill the enemy carries in the blink of an eye. While there aren't many of them, they're still a ton of fun to play and have high carry potential. These junglers tend to farm until mid-game and then look to snowball with kills. Now finally, we have the remaining few junglers that don't really fit into any of the other categories. Some of them are high damage mages, others are long-range marksmen. And there are even a few that have attributes from multiple classes. Overall, it's about finding what champion is fun and whether you're looking to prioritize getting your team ahead or just putting it all in your own hands.
But before we continue on with the video, it's time for our question of the day. What was the first champion that you ever bought a skin for? None of my friends wanted to play support, so that's what made me main that role, and mine was Subterranean Nautilus. Now, if you don't know that that was even a skin, you're missing out because it makes Nautilus look like Bumblebee from Transformers, and it's lovably jank. But let me know yours in the comments below, and let's get back to the video.
Next up, we got the mid lane, which is arguably one of the most popular roles in the game. Alongside its popularity, it boasts one of the highest champ pools as well, which allows for a lot of different playstyles. That being said, its position is quite literally in the middle of the map, which allows them to impact all other roles quite easily. I guess you could say it has a nice combination of jungle and top lane characteristics. As a mid laner, it's best to consider you and your jungler as a duo. This is because you are uniquely able to help your jungler as fast as possible pretty much constantly, considering that you have the shortest lane and it's the most central on the map. That being said, there are a variety of different playstyles, so whether you're looking to farm to late game, roam with your jungler, or burst people as an assassin, you'll be sure to find a champion that's suited for you. Taking a look at mid lane's various class types, there's really not that many, but it's because a ton of champions fall under the same class, but also have different playstyles. Taking a look at one of the most prominent classes in the mid lane, we have mages. These are champions that deal magic damage, so essentially you're in charge of dealing with people who are stacking armor but not magic resist. That being said, there's tons of different mages, so you can pick a burst mage who deals high amounts of damage all at once, or somebody who deals damage over a long period of time. If these aren't your style, there's also control mages who love to zone off enemies and deal damage with abilities that threaten larger areas. Overall, it's a fairly broad class that allows you to find something that you enjoy. Next up, we got assassins. These champions are often the super stylish ones that you've probably seen in a few montages. Their primary goal is to assassinate the enemy carry at all costs. With extreme amounts of burst damage and high mobility, assassins offer a high-paced playstyle that can get you a few style points. Plus, you kind of feel like a ninja when you're playing one. And finally, we got a few champions that don't really fit any of these classes. There's some that are primarily fighters, others that are marksmen, and even the occasional tank showing up in the mid lane. Overall, if you're looking to impact the map and have a lot of characters to choose from, consider taking a look at this position. Now for our second to last role of the video, we got AD carries. For those of you who play a lot of MMORPGs, this role will feel fairly similar to you. Well, to some of you. The role of AD carry is best known as the highest damage role with also some of the longest range, yet having the lowest health bars. The entire goal of an AD carry is to dish out as much damage as possible before dying, and if you can avoid dying, well, that's also ideal. Their kits often allow them to scale incredibly well into the late game when compared to other champions, but they still have various playstyles. While they may not have as many champions as the other roles in the game, it's still extremely fun to be the person who's going to be doing all of the damage. Just keep in mind that everyone on the enemy team is also going to be trying to kill you. Now, there aren't really many varieties of classes in the bot lane, at least not in high amounts, and almost all of them are marksmen, which means that they offer more range and basic attack damage than other champions. That being said, they're still fairly unique in not only their playstyles, but when they are the strongest. Now, hyper carries are the definition of an AD carry. They're often seen carrying games by themselves due to their extremely high amounts of damage and range. The issue with hyper carries is that they're often extremely weak in the early and the mid game. They heavily rely on items to deal damage, but when they do get those items, they can completely run over a game. Overall, if you're somebody who's looking to play safe and wait to be powerful, you will really enjoy the few hyper carries that do exist. Now, the early to mid-game category consists of AD carries who are best known for either scaling extremely hard into the mid-game or being able to punish the enemy early on. And sometimes you can even fight a champion that does a bit of both. These types of characters are looking to get themselves ahead while setting the enemy behind. And while they may not have the same power as a hyper carry, they're still no joke. They're often able to catch a few kills early in the game, grab a few dragons, and just become powerhouses mid-game as they reach their item spikes. So if you're looking to constantly fight in the mid-game and set the enemy behind early, you might enjoy an early to mid-game carry. And finally, we have utility carries. These are champions that offer a variety of playstyles, but most importantly, they help their team outside of just damage. They're often seen as a nice balance between hyper carries and the early game carries, since they can punish their enemy, yet always get their team ahead. You'll often find that they have crowd control, slows, engage tools, and more. So if you don't want a ton of pressure put on you to carry and want to just help your team more, then a utility carry is the perfect fit for you. By the way, if you want to join an amazing community of people that love League of Legends just as much as you gotta check out our Discord using the link in the description. We got people nerding out on item builds, pro games, how their solo queues going, all kinds of stuff. So if you want to make some friends and join the fam, come check it out. Now last but certainly not least, we got the support role. This role is primarily known for being the babysitter of the team, especially for the AD carry. They're found in the bot lane with the AD carry and usually aim to either protect them early on or get them ahead. Plus, sometimes they'll even gank mid lane to help get their mid laner ahead as well. Alongside this, they're one of the primary methods of your team to gain vision control. This means that they're often looking to prepare objectives or set up vision in order to protect the team from just blindly walking into the fog of war. Overall, they're quite literally the team's biggest supporters. Now, supportive champions are built to help their team out in one way or another, so whether that's getting the AD carry ahead, protecting their carry, looking for kills, or something in between, support has something for everybody to enjoy. One of the most common classes of a support is the engaged tank. These are champions that offer high amounts of CC and natural methods of making them beefy. Whether you need to peel your carry or help your team pick a fight, engaged tanks can always offer a fun experience. Next up, we have enchanters. These champions are primarily looking to keep their AD carry alive and help them do more damage. That being said, they got 4 more tools to do so than an engaged tank would, which also means that you'll end up being far squishier. But nonetheless, enchanters are constantly making sure that their carry is safe, and some of them can even empower them to increase their damage. So if you want to play back and simply help your team, enchanters are the classic definition of a support. And finally, there's some supports that just aren't as common or don't really fit into these 2 primary categories. You have some that are mages who look to deal high amounts of damage but don't really offer any peel, others that are a fusion between tanks and enchanters, and some are quite literally assassins or even AD carries themselves. But regardless of what you're playing, we can all agree that the support role is extremely important to the team. So if you're looking to be somebody who helps get your carries ahead, the support role may be for you. Plus, it's my main role too, so hey, brownie points.
And that'll sum up our video for today. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed it, remember to leave a like and sub to the channel so you never miss our future uploads. Also, don't forget to join the ProGuides family over at ProGuides.com. That's it for today, so best of luck on the Rift, everybody. Stay hydrated, and I'll see you in the next one.